Oh boy. Welcome to twitch.tv/Joe Fish. It's me, your boy, Joe Fish. And we're here doing a little behind the scenes, looking at how we wrote some music recently. We had the opportunity. The group 24/7, they had a recent group, Senpai. And they had this ambitious idea of creating a visual novel. And I was contacted and asked by Chibi, who is the one who puts everything related 24/7 together. She's the head honcho of it. She was like, hey, I need music. I went, oh, okay. I was like, what's it do by? She's like, this day. I was like, got it. I was like, all right, let me see what I can do for you. And then, yep, that's where we are here. We wrote a bunch of music for it. I think I would have to look at the DMs actually. I'm curious. Yeah, it was like February 23rd, and it was due by March 14th. The debut day was March 14th. So I needed it in, I believe Misty Pat, who's part of it, was doing a lot of the coding. Needed some leeway for sure. So I tried to get it in as soon as possible. So that way they could work on it. And then, of course, for you don't know, the people who debuted in this were Sheriff Grin, Starry, Reyna, Kyaappucino, Misty, Pat, and Aqua Wolf. All debuted, and they were in this visual novel. The only information I had off rip was they are in a school. It's like they were going to be in a school, and then they were going to get isekai'd somewhere. I was like, all right. And I thought it would introduce them individually. I actually thought originally it was just going to be a video they were doing. And then they told me it's like, no, it's a full blown visual. Like they actually made like a visual novel. I was like, oh, you need to be like loopable. So I was like, all right. And then from there, I just went, okay, well, they probably need like one, maybe two songs. I don't know. And if I just went, well, you know what? Actually, hold on. What is the scenario here? I need the setting. She was like, you want the script? I was like, whatever you have. I don't even think the script was finished. I think they had a couple more things they had to add in. I went, all right, this will do though. This gives me an idea of what is needed. That's how we got to where we are here with what we got going on. Yeah, the whole project's here. Normally, like I said, we do separate them, but in this case, the songs themselves aren't very long, to be honest. Me trying to quickly turn this around and just kind of putting something together. Right off rip on it, it's just the introduction. You're in school and you're joining a new school. You just moved there. Let's start with we need both an intro song, but all like for the like menu screen, kind of set the scene and play something in the background when we don't meet characters, and just to kind of set the mood for it. The main like inspirations, Doki Doki Literature Club was one of the big ones. Just kind of clicking around to some of it. I would look up just other visual novel stuff too, but this just felt like I had a good grasp as to what I wanted by listening to this. Let's go ahead and take a listen real quick, and I'll there you hear it's not very long. I mean, in total, I just looped it here, just not even a minute. The big thing to start, so we had to start somewhere. I can do this and show you here in our tracks that it's kind of hard to just go, here's my instrument track, and then I go boop and I look for a plugin, and then I'm like, instrument. Oh boy, where do I start? Like, there's just a lot of things. So first thing I tend to do when I want to write new music, and especially if it's all instrumental, you get a piano track. You start with a piano track just like that, and that's what this is here. That's all this is here. I don't remember what I did first. I want to say I did the chords first, and then I wrote the melody. Actually, no, I might have wrote the melody first. And a lot of times when I'm writing these melodies, I literally sit here and I just kind of do this. Just kind of fiddle around until you find something. Maybe play some chords and then go from there. So I don't remember if I did the chords first or the melody first. I actually am unsure, but this is what originally. So you can kind of hear that's started with a melody, and then we kind of threw some chords in. Now it's a matter of let's take all that stuff and put them on some instruments that would make sense. I can play guitar, but I was looking to see if there was something sample-wise that could work. And in this case, in Contact here, there's actually this nice nylon guitar sample. Actually doesn't sound too bad. Pretty warm, pretty nice sounding. Some guitar samples can sound a little thin, but that one sounds pretty nice. And yeah, kind of just using the same notation you would use like on a guitar. Oopsie. But yeah, we took the same chords, but what I did was I changed the notation, or I looked at what the chord was and I looked, what would that notation look like on a guitar if you were to pick the individual strings? And that's kind of what we came up with here, which is how we got this guy. One of the things when writing, we don't want to muddy up some of the frequency ranges. As you can hear, guitars have a pretty kind of mid-tone range to them, unless you play them really high. Yeah. Kind of in the mid-range in there. Not very high-end or low-end, much more the mid. So I wanted something for the melody that would take more of the high-end register instead, so that way it wouldn't clash too much with the guitar and I wouldn't have a nightmare trying to mix it. It's a Celesta. I wrote Clevital because I couldn't remember what the name of the instrument was and I couldn't be bothered to just click on the plugin. So that's why the track name is Clevital. I don't know what that actually means. I think I just made that up. But it's this nice little, almost like a glockenspiel type thing. Very high pitch. Played a much more on the high register. Has a good ring to it. And that's where we basically literally just took the main melody here just to kind of give some variety, change it up so we're not looping the exact same thing. The only other instrument on here is this oboe. Literally just an oboe sample. You see here. This is something nice that goes with it. Change it up a bit, change up the pace. Something that isn't doing the exact same thing as the main melody and kind of give you a little bit of a difference in it. Why the oboe? I had no exact real reason other than it sounds nice. Also, when I was in school, I swear I heard the instrument name oboe like 100 times because that was like the go-to instrument for some reason. I don't know why. I think it's just a woodwind that just sounds good via samples. Putting all those guys together is how you get all this. And of course, this needs to be looped, so the chord progression doesn't really change. It's the same 4 chords all the way through, and that's it. You just want to make it loopable, make it easy for the person. So you just export it out in such a way that you just say, hey, just put this in, and there shouldn't be a skip or any weird nonsense for it. This is something I learned quite a while ago, actually, when it came to making music for just other mediums. When you're making music for games or interactive mediums, at least, making it so they can just drop a thing in, punch in a code, and it's done. There's no finagling after the fact. I learned that through experience because I would make sound design for some games, and I'd make all these sounds and go, oh yeah, here you go, here's your batch of sounds, and I give them a whole folder. They put all the sounds in, let us know if we need to turn up or turn down anything, and I was like, oh, and that was a hassle. I learned very quickly, yeah, mix everything yourself at home while you're doing the project and make it so that you send in the deliverables, pop them in, and that's it. They're done. It's over. They don't have to finagle it. That's why we kind of make things simple, and that's why these things only having, it's just the same 4 chords being looped. From what I heard, Senpai is planning to actually release that visual novel for you to play, but they're gonna expand on it some more, add some more characters to it, add more scenes, a whole bunch of stuff. So there's probably gonna be some more music, and in which case I will also try and sit down and flesh out a lot of these themes and tunes a lot more to do these things. But there you go. That's the intro song, and that plays actually at the beginning of the visual novel for the menu and going into the beginning of it. First thing you do in that thing is you meet our good friend Sheriff Grin. So Sheriff, well, it's one of the things we need to do. So the other thing I did was I went about and I said, I thought, okay, we're gonna need to make some themes for every person pretty much. So that's basically what happened. I need to write music and themes for every character. So how am I gonna do that? And I started off with Sheriff Grin. He's the first character you meet. Well, you get into the story and stuff. The first person you meet is Sheriff Grin. This was pretty straightforward, actually. I felt like this was probably the easiest one. I want to say it was the easiest one, but I'm not sure. But British cowboy, which feels like an oxymoron to say, but he's a British cowboy. He does do some amateur painting. I've seen some of his amateur painting streams. They're really funny. And then he's just variety streamer, plays a whole bunch of stuff. So with Sheriff, You see here, we have, I would refer to all the characters by some kind of moniker. Sheriff was just referred to as Cowboy. And we can go ahead and take a look here. His entire theme comprises of 4 instruments right here. When I looked up, oh, look at that. There you go. I think I just looked up cowboy music. And I was like, what's going to come up? And I clicked this. And I was like, I mean, that's kind of, I guess, what I want. And I just kind of scrolled around a bit. Then I was like, okay, well, I need a steel string. Let's kind of click around here. Let's click around at some of the other samples I have here. But I saw this one here for the Aqua guitar. As I listened to it, I was just like, what does it sound like? Could I, like, I don't know, do like a picking pattern similar to the nylon guitar thing? And one of the things they have on here is it's got these patterns here, shuffle patterns. So I think one of the pattern we picked does this. Just playing one chord. I'm just holding one note. And then if I did like this, like swinging, I'm holding one note. Yeah, I ended up finding that, and I found a pattern I like. Oh, it's on ballad 1. Literally, I can just hold. The problem is when you hold 1, it does C major, so you got to hold other notes sometimes to kind of make it play a chord you want or something. There we go. So it's an A minor chord. So really, like, just changing between 2 chords. That's it. And shuffling through them. So that's how we got that sound. Want something twangy to kind of really give a little bit of that bendy feel to it. And one of the other things, we use a jazz guitar sample, which sounds boop like this. You see, that's why I don't really like guitar samples. They sound like that. They're not the best. You can add some effects. So we have this here. I have this guitar rig thing. It's just got plenty of guitar effects on it and everything that I was like, oh boy, let me use that. And we went ahead and used the Twang Country Clean preset that's on there. Also, I just scroll through these presets. Sometimes I go into the components and find my own stuff, but it just depends. In this case, we have the Twang Country Clean preset here, which gives us this sound. The other thing you can do here, when you hear it, is when you play, we can move this wheel. I have a little mod wheel on my keyboard. Did a little bending. So, what do we do to make it sound all cool and stuff and twangy? Bend it. That's all this is. You can even see the pitch bending. This is the mod wheel. We're just bending it down the entire time. And we're just performing that. So what I would do is I record it, and then I would hit the note, and then just kind of move the mod wheel. Figure that out. So I get that, and it's just 2 notes. Just to join the Atlas universe as the world's only guitar bender. Fuck, bro. That's crazy. And we're just bending it, and then all together, the 2 of them sound like this. And from there, flutes always sound nice, man. You know, gotta love a good flute. Similarly to the intro too, we want to have a melody that covers more of the high end. Because this was a critique I got a long time ago when I was working on some music for a short animated film. We wrote all this music. Can you review this and just give us some thoughts? And they listened to it and they're like, this is really cool. You should consider using some instruments for the low end. And we're like, what? It's like, yeah, use like a double bass or something. Like, it's like, you got a lot of the mid-range covered and the high-end covered. So we literally just did that. We just went in and either we put a cello or we put a double bass in. I forgot what we did. I think we put a double bass in. And we put that in, and it like changed the whole thing. It like elevated it. We were like, oh my God, that sounds so much better now. So that's something I always try and remember. Any kind of music work is just cover the different ranges of the frequency range. So again, with those guitars, we're covering that mid-range stuff. So with the flute, and I like typically the high-end stuff, you want to have those on the melody and everything. So that's what that flute is here. Coming up with the melody, most of my melodies come from just kind of improvising. I have a small background in jazz music. One of the things you learn in jazz is just improv. A lot of times when I come with melodies, that's what I'm doing. I'm just looping, and then on top of it, I'll just kind of play around until I find something that I like and is memorable, and then I can play it over and over again. If I can't play it more than once, then it's not memorable. If I can play it more than once, then it either I forced it into my brain or it's actually memorable enough for me to keep. The last thing we added in there was this percussion here. Always fun working with percussion. If this all percussion contact. And this one's fun because it just has a lot of things in it. You can just play around. I'm literally pressing different keys, all on the same track. A lot of different sounds, a lot of fun stuff. So it's fun to kind of play around with. The main driving thing here. I didn't really want to put like a timpani or anything low end, and I didn't want anything booming, and let it be kind of sparse. So, and the percussion to be more of like almost auxiliary sounds to add to the background of it. Snares just are there as kind of the bass line for it to kind of help keep the driving force. And we have things like the shaking, rattling here, as well as these boys here to kind of help just add a little bit extra, let it add some flavor, and altogether it gives us the track that we got here. That is Sheriff Grin's theme for the Senpai debut. You can check him out here if you haven't already. There you have it. The next character you end up meeting is none other Aqua Wolf 32. End up meeting them instead next. This is where it definitely got a little trickier. I felt like the intro, and I wrote most of these kind of within the day. I tried to sit on them for a bit and just kind of was like, yeah, these are good. The intro was pretty straightforward. It was something I put a lot of work. I was like, okay, I put some thought into it. Sheriff's was like some stuff. Once I got to Aqua, I started kind of going, how do we do this and keep the themes, and kind of how do we represent Aqua in music? Aqua is the slimest member of 24/7. As you can tell, they are a slime girl. So I was like, okay, what do we do here? What can we kind of figure out here? And I kind of had to just play around. I did recall a time where I was writing Sea Dwellers for that EP. I remember making like using something that sounded very bubbly. So that was kind of where we started with it. Let's just make like, I don't know, some kind of bubbly sounding synth, which ended up being this. What that is here is we got this synth here called Absinthe. This is a really cool synth. I like it a lot, actually. Gives you a couple of different oscillators to work with. You can filter them, modulate them, all that fun stuff. I will sit here and like fiddle with all this. But in this case, we just kind of go through the browser here and just look through stuff. In this case, we did the Absinthe harp. I don't remember where I went to get it. And a lot of times too, if I hear something, I'm like, ooh, I like that, but I don't like this. I'll go in here and just kind of finagle some of these. So when it came to the chords and stuff, like what I wanted underneath, I wasn't sure. And then with it being kind of this like synth sound, I figured the best sound to go for was kind of like a little keyboard thing. Have this nice little sample. Breakfast at NY is a great name. Yeah, dude. Yeah, it's Breakfast at NY. A lot of times the Scarby vintage keys, I kind of just picked the first one, and I think I just decided to pick that one. I've probably used some of these other ones in various things. But yeah, I decided with the Breakfast at NY, I kind of like the sound of this keyboard. I thought that would be a cool sound. I was like, oh, let's do that. So came up with that and thought that would be a nice accompaniment to it. And then threw in a nice bass on there. Pretty much everything here is samples too. I didn't record anything for this. I only use samples. We did use the Scarby MM bass for it. This is actually a pretty nice sounding bass. It's just holding a lot. Reinforcing the root note there. It's kind of how we get this. I just wanted something a little soft to kind of reflect the squishy nature, like a slime girl. On top, laid that right below, and on top with the bubbly synth. Still keeping this like school theme, this school like idea. Like you're very much in the visual novel of this school. Want everything to be soft, and we didn't want anything too abrasive either that took away, because you're trying to read. You know, like imagine this song's playing in the background, you're trying to read. If a song playing in the background is going, you'd probably like, get all confused. So it would be a little much. So you need to kind of keep something soft, something nice, and not too crazy to help focus in and make it easy for you to really delve into what you're reading. And then to kind of fill it all out, we got these drums here. These drums are the first different set of drums. Well, I guess we only used percussion for Sheriff so far at this point. So I was like, well, I need some drums for this song. I feel like a nice little kind of beat to keep it grounded. Because again, a lot of decisions I make are based off critiques I've gotten in the past about stuff. In this case, I remember being told one time, I did a song and I did music for something, and I was told like, oh, hey, add some percussion to add to the intensity, or add a little something to it, or ground it a bit. But in this case, we used Studio Drummer. You can change the kits out in this stuff. In this case, we use the Jazz kit. And then I just tried to make the drum beat kind of simple and just kind of keep the pace going. So I didn't really put you can hear there's no snare. I thought it'd be too much. So instead I just opted for kind of the stick sound instead. We always have the kick drum on the one to just ground you into where the downbeat is. And this nice little eighth note hi-hat, kind of keep it driving a bit. Just help keep the time. Then all together. Look at this. Now I was having a moment when I was doing this. I was okay, I need to loop this, but I don't want to only have this. Let me create another melody and do something else. And I didn't really want to just keep making new instruments. So I said, okay, well, can I reuse something? And at this point, we had the nylon guitar that we had used earlier in the intro. And I said, oh, let's bring back the nylon guitar, use it for something else. Which is how we came up with this guy here. It gives a little bit of a kind of change to a change of pace here, something different. And it worked well coming off of. There you have it. That's pretty much Aqua's theme that plays once you meet them and as you're speaking to them throughout. So nice kind of soft bubbliness, giving the Slime Girl vibes. The next person you meet, coded as Demon here, is none other than Kyaappucino. Kya. She's actually the person who wrote the script for the visual novel. I think she wrote most of it. I think Aqua helped with it to some extent. A sheriff has admitted that he had the least to do with any of it. I think he said he had the least input into it. For no reason other than he just had the least amount of input. There was no thing behind it. Just that was it. And then you eventually meet her next. The big thing with her, as you can see, I had a moment. I looked here and I went, shit. What is, wait a minute, what is Kaya actually? Is she a demon or something? Okay, she does art. And I was like, shit. So I had to go to her Twitch channel. And I was like, Kaya, artist. I was like, oh, cafe owner. And I was like, oh, demon. Owns a cafe. Perfect. That's what I needed. I was like, what am I basing this off of? And I was like, geez, she got a cafe. Got it. All right. Understood. What's more cafe than having some jazz? So I've written like a jazz thing before. There was a long time ago. I did these like little 8-bar loop things, and one of them was actually for someone that their profile was like they were a cafe owner. So I did this little like jazz thing and I was like, okay, that's cool. So I kind of had an idea of where I wanted to go with it, what I needed to do. So it was just a matter of finding kind of what progression we needed to do and stuff. So I believe it started with the kind of the upright bass here. Love a good upright bass. You can even see here again, we have samples out the wazoo for stuff, but we had a nice little jazz upright. Sounds real good. I like it. Used it before. I believe I used it for when 24/7 did the Christmas medley back in December. There was a lot of upright. I recall there being a lot of upright jazz in it. Upright bass in it. I could be wrong though. I might have used it for. But yeah, we started there with that, and then I figured, okay, let's get some drums in there. Let's get this rhythm section kind of banged out. It's a cafe, so we don't want this big band. We don't need this big thing. Cafes typically with jazz bands, they're like 3-4 pieces at most. And it's like bass, drums, piano, and then maybe one horn player. So I needed to have like a small feel to it. So that's why we kind of only had the bass and the drums here at the beginning. This one here, I actually didn't use Studio Drummer for it. We actually used this jazz kit because the jazz kit has, and Studio Drummer doesn't have this for some dumbass reason. I don't know why. It's this. I don't know if you hear. It's very quiet. It's basically sticks. It's these little sticks. One of the things with drums, especially jazz drums, you could do this. You can do this in other genres, but jazz drums do it a lot. You don't have to use a normal drumstick. We have what's called brushes. And brushes, what you do is you can hit the actual drums with them, and it has a very light kind of tap to it. But it's not the same as like if you grab your finger and lightly tap on a drum. Instead, it's a lot softer sounding. So you get a lot of soft sounds, usually used for ballads. And a very common technique that's used is this kind of sound. And what it is, you take the brush, and you put it on the snare drum, and you just kind of go in a circular motion. And it has this like sound to it. Literally with the drums here, it's just, you can hear it very subtle in the background though. It's just shake, it's the little shake, shimmy, shimmy, and then a hit. And then we got a kick drum on the downbeat so you know where the one is and you can be grounded. Again, I did that. One of the critiques I've gotten before in the past, I made this song one time. I think it was a branding spot. Was it a branding spot or an advertisement? I think it was an advertisement. It was something cool. I liked it. I remember the audio director was like, cool. He's like, yeah, it's cool. You're kind of taking a risk with this one because it's a little wild sounding, but it's pretty cool. And the animators looked at it, they listened to it, and someone said, they're like, what do you guys think? And one of them was just like, I'm uncomfortable. And I was like, what? And they're like, yeah. And then immediately every animator was like, yeah, something about it was uncomforting. We're not sure, but they like, we feel kind of uneasy. And I was like, what? And we sat there, me and the director sat there. We were just like, what could it be? What could I do to change it? And he was like, you know what? He's like, you got drums in there? Could you tell me where the downbeat is? And I'm like, oh, he's like, do that. He's like, maybe put like a kick drum somewhere that really likes like a really strong downbeat. So you know where it is. And with this being kind of what it is with the bass doing this like kind of dum da dum, we need something to kind of ground it. So while we're doing this wash and stuff with the snare and the brushes, let's put a kick drum on the downbeat to really like, you know, oh, there it is. And again, we don't want this to sound distracting, but we need to just like, if you're going to listen to it, you know, okay, you know where it is. You can kind of just feel it. And eventually you can kind of just get lost in it. And while you're reading, you don't get super distracted and you're in it. And then when it came to the melody, this was an interesting one. This was a fun one. Without a doubt, I was like, well, we're doing a jazz thing. Gotta have a tenor sax in there. And if you're wondering, that sounds a little familiar. This is a fun fact. No secret either. Wanted something a little fun thing to kind of tie together. Kaya, her partner, is actually Aqua. Kaya and Aqua are actually partners, IRL. It's not a secret or anything like that. So what I did was when I created Aqua's theme, this kind of happened on accident. I went, what would be right? Kaya's theme. What I did was when I made the nylon guitar thing in Aqua's theme right here, I took this and I said, oh, hey, that theme is an Aqua's thing. Why don't we just make that Kaya's theme and put it at the beginning of her stuff? Also, I lied, by the way, there was one more instrument. The keys that were also in Aqua's theme, I also used in Kaya's because it would fit still in the kind of jazz theme, but also kind of incorporates how they're in each other's theme. They both share the exact same instrument that plays the chords. They just play them differently. Whereas like Aqua's does this. Kaya's does this. Oh, don't drink that. And then, yeah, that's where the tenor sax theme here comes from. I'll try that guitar. And then to further kind of put it in there, we took Aqua's theme, which is here, and we stuck that theme on the nylon guitar and had it play during Kaya's. Putting together the whole thing. have it. That was Kaio's theme. We had originally we had only one more, and that was only because what happened was I went, okay, let me write the themes for every person, and then I'm gonna send these to Chibi and say, here, are these good? You know, do you need something to change? And if something needed to change, I could change them, and then we'd go from there. And if they needed more, I could make more. You know, but I was like, let's go there, let's start there, and have something for them. And then what we ended up doing was I went ahead and did one more. And that person is none other than Misty Pat, a chronicler VTuber. This was, of course, also difficult because I was like, perfect. This makes sense. Yeah, chronicler. Yeah, hell yeah, dude. Totally. And then I sat here and I went, what the fuck is a chronicler? I had to look this up. I had to Google this. I think I did this. I was like, chronicler here. And I was like, oh, I guess it's someone who writes stories, who make stuff, right? Stalking the profiles again. I was like, go to the about section. I don't know. Let's see. It's a chronicler from the Chroniclers Guild, and he's trying to learn throughout world streaming. And I was like, okay, all right. I think I looked up the Chroniclers Guild to see if that was a thing somewhere, and you know, see where the inspiration came from. And it's like, oh, I like traveling through worlds and stuff. I was like, okay, got it. I was like, all right. Misty Pet's song, I think, ended up being the shortest one out of all of them, which somewhat worked out because I think he has the shortest amount of time you're talking to only him before you talk to other people or do something else. So kind of worked out. But his was also working on this on stream. It was like, oh, I was like out of brain juice at this point. I was like, I'm going to call it here and go take a break. With him, I kind of just had to start just from scratch and just start all the fresh with new instruments and stuff. So you can see here, I didn't even label the stuff because I was trying to turn it around real quick. And you can see there's no other instruments in his section here. Kind of needed something with a little bit of whimsy. Went more in just like a little bit of a sci-fi kind of direction with it. In my head, I was thinking portal, you know, universe travel. And I kind of just equated it. I equated it more to sci-fi than I did to fantasy, which kind of gave me this sound that I went for. So with that, we really just went full in on like synthesizers and stuff. Even these contact ones, these are actually not samples, they're some synths. Where did we even start? I think I started here. I think I literally went top to bottom. Started here, instrument 2, which is this like kind of ARP thing. See, that's just this guy right here. It's the Analog Dreams. This is a real cool synth kind of thing that you can use in Contact. I like it a lot. It's got a lot of analog kind of samples and stuff in it from Classic Solids, all that. You kind of mix them together. Plenty of cool presets and everything. Love fiddling around with this thing. Used it for a lot of different things. It's great. I like this synth a lot. It's really cool. So we had this kind of arpeggio thing here. Then of course we need like a nice little bass to add some oomph to it. That's where we got this guy here. Same thing. It's actually the Analog Dreams we're using there for the bass. Just different setup for it. I wanted to put some drums in, and in this case we decided to go with, I went ahead and used the battery kit here, battery 4. It's got a lot of different drum kits in here. All these are like electronic drum kits. So much more for, you know, your EDM, your hip hop, K-pop, all that stuff. Pretty simple, just drums. It's just, there's not like a lot going on. It's just a kick and a snare. And then I had this snare, which I like this one. Had some high end to it. But this one had a little bit more snappiness to it. So something we do, you might hear one snare, they're like, I like this, but I like the snappiness of this. Play them together. Which is what this is. You don't have to use one, you don't have to use the other. Do them together. So we'll kind of stack up snares on top of each other to get a little bit more fat of them, get a little bit more fullness out of it. But yeah, that's how we came up with that. That's how we kind of put together most of that. And then similarly for the melody, so we use the absinthe again for this guy. Use this like shimmering crystals patch that they had. I wanted to have a similar vibe to help kind of keep things connected together in some way, shape, or form. With the not clev at all, the Celesta, I wanted to do something similar to that sound from the intro, but I didn't want to just reuse the Celesta. I wanted to kind of keep using some synth sounds. Just kind of kept Misty's melody, since there's so much going on. There's already a lot going on. We have this ARP here. You got the bass going, and all of it. Like, there's a lot. This is a lot on its own, but we wanted a little something. I wanted a little something more in there, so we needed a melody of some sort, and we just decided let's just keep nice and easy with the space kind of do its thing. And all together, it just fills out the space nicely. There you have it, though. That's Misty Pat's theme, who you eventually meet as well. And with that, everything was actually done. I'm going to tell you right now, this is what I know you see things here. Trust me when I say, this is where it ended. It was done. I exported all this, sent it to Chibi, and I heard nothing. And I waited a couple days. It was a pretty busy weekend. I think she had a lot going on that weekend. So eventually I asked her, I was like, hey, was the music all right? Was it good? And she goes, yeah, it's good. I was like, oh, okay, cool, sweet. Let me go ahead and I'll sit down, and I mixed it. And then I sat down, mixed everything, just levels and everything, did whatever I needed to do, finished it off, and then sent it over to her. And she was like, cool, awesome, thanks. And I was like, no problem. That was the end of that. We were done, and I sat here and I sat back and put my hands up. I had done this, I don't know, with a week to go, maybe, five. I think it was like 5 days left or something. It was like the week of. I submitted it probably like the Monday, and they were debuting that Saturday. So it was there. We're good. And then I get a message from Chibi. I'm not exaggerating. It was Thursday night. Before debut, it's literally 2 days before debut. Thursday night, she said to me, she's like, Joe, we had a change. It's just like, I have an emergency. We had a change. And I went, oh, fuck. I was like, what happened? She's like, there was an addition. I was like, there was an addition? Yeah, not last minute at all. Exactly. So there was an addition. I was like, oh shit. I was like, okay, what's up? And she informed me that Senpai had added Starry Reyna to their group. Oh, okay. She's like, yeah, Reyna's in the group now. So we need one more song. And I was like, oh fuck. She's like, do you have a theme for Reyna? I was like, oh, all right, sure thing. And she told me, she's like, and it's totally fine. You can rest now. If you need to get it to us tomorrow, that's fine. I was like, no problem. I was like, let me see what I can do. And I kind of finagled something that night. I had to go to bed. It was pretty late, and I was like tired, so I definitely had to go to bed. So then I went, okay, I need to figure out something. I spent a good chunk of my Friday just going, all right, work on a song for it. I got to get something to her. So of course, to prep at least, and in the free time, if I'm not working on the music to prep, what I'll do is just quickly like, oh, let me go on the profiles, just take a look, see what I need. In this case, Starry Reyna, she's a space queen. And she's learning about Earth and stuff, so alien vibes. Okay, so we need like space vibes. Okay, this sci-fi, space vibes, all that. All right, cool. Okay, that's really what we need. This is space stuff. So we did here, and then I popped in here, and then it's a little kind of vibe to the Chronicler. Yeah, it was actually similar to the Chronicler with Misty Pat, which in turn kind of led to using a lot of the same instrumentation. Starry Reyna ended up having. She had a little bit more to her stuff. It was a little bit more convoluted altogether, but ultimately she had a very similar vibe to Chronicler. She even uses the same kit. I don't know if it's all the same stuff. So yeah, wanted to go with a real sci-fi vibe to it for sure. I had to start somewhere. So from what I can recall, I want to say where I started was probably here. You can see here, our best friend, the Absinthe. I really just use the Absinthe a lot in this project. Synth plugins and stuff, but the Absinthe was just kind of like the go-to for this stuff. And again, very similar when we're working on projects. We need to get things done. So I can't sit here and just finagle things with the oscillators and everything. It's just like, I can't sit here and go, oh, let me turn on this guy, go through here. What we do is we just go here, we just find something that works. If we need to adjust, we go to the patch and we adjust. We move stuff around. I've done that before. I've literally just adjusted a filter because I like this. It's just too bright. Let me filter it out a bit. Done. And really the goal was, when I was looking for sounds, was find something spacey sounding, a lot of reverb, maybe some delays on there, something just very spacey sounding. And with a lot that's going on, it was like, let's keep this as simple as possible. Try to make it as sparse as possible too. Really give that kind of emptiness of space. And on top of that, I was like, well, Reyna's from space. She's an alien. We gotta have some like alien sounds, dude, right? So there was actually a space, just straight up called Space Lead. And sure enough, colleague Johnny was saying, it sounds like a theremin. Made the melody nice and simple, just kind of still give the feel, that nice soft, that nice calm, soft feel. Because again, we're still in a school. Like, this is still kind of a school vibe. So it's like, let's give it that school vibe. And on top of it, I went ahead and used this similar synth that we had earlier for Misty Pat's thing, just to kind of add a little something to the top of the Space Lead. Just adds a little something on top there, because this being more in the mid-range area might not cut through the rest of it, so you kind of put a little brightness on top of it to help it cut through a little bit more. And then we had this bass. This bass was probably the thing I sat here for the longest time thinking, like, what the hell am I gonna do that works, dude? It's like this thing, just a 500-foot wide steel drum. That's literally what it's called. Again, I think I went here. I'm gonna say I went into bass. It kind of gave me like a cool, like John Carpenter vibe to it, like very old analog synth sound. It really came down to like, what the fuck is this like progression gonna be? Ultimately settled for this thing. But yeah, we had all that, put all that together, and then of course we need some drums. You need some percussion. You can't just not have percussion. Same thing. Literally just use the same kit. Just use Battery 4 with the Arena kit, and used a lot of the same sounds. You can see the same snare from Misty's thing is used here. In this case, I just wanted to add a hi-hat because we need something to just differentiate Reyna's from Misty's theme, because otherwise I think there would have been too much similarity. So I needed to differentiate them. And Misty had already gotten the kind of 4 on the floor beat, or like the 1-2 beat, you know, just boom, chick, boom, chick. So we were going to keep the snare drum on tune 4. It's like how we do here. Let's just change up the kick drum. In fact, you can kind of hear, this is where it started, it was kind of like this. Zoom in. And then again, I needed to make some differences here. So when I copy and pasted the 2 bars into the next 2, change up the rhythm just a little bit. And at that point, we added the hi-hats in here. This guy right here, this closed hi-hat. And I've done this before. It's really cool, but there's a little send here you have. There's a delay send right here. Just pump that up a bit, so that way it sends it to a delay, and you can actually hear if I solo this. And then all together. But yeah, there you have it. That was Reyna's theme. And with that actually concluded everything for the project. This got submitted the Friday before debut, and I don't know, man. They slammed it in there. They got it all together and got to the end. The other thing, if you see these tracks here, if you're wondering what these are here, when I do mastering stuff for anything that I deliver, we go ahead and we just stick it on. I'll just stick it in the same project. You can actually see that right here. These are literally just the mixed down versions of every song, and they're just there, and I just do a little bit of quick mastering. It's very quick, very just kind of scrambled together. Export it and send it out, and that's it. And that was it right there. That was Reyna's theme as well as everybody else's, and that was the entirety of the Senpai debut. Yeah, it was fun. It was a fun project to put it all together. I haven't done a visual novel before, so it was fun to kind of just figure something out for them. Of course, if you guys aren't already, you can make sure to follow 24/7 Twitter account. So you can see updates on stuff from any of the 24/7 members, including myself and everybody else involved. And of course, check out Senpai and the rest of those members as well, including Reyna, Aqua Wolf, Kaya, Misty Pat, and Sheriff Grin. There you have it. I hope you enjoyed this little behind the music thing, behind the scenes look at this. If you guys are watching this after fact, you can follow me on twitter.com/JoeFish, where I post stuff and I just say things. I just say things on there, man. And you can also come hang out live. You know, if we have one of these, you can come ask questions and talk about stuff. Or if you want, put questions down in the comments below and I'll get back to you whenever I can. You know?
It's these empty streets I walk without a soul in sight. You think being a dead would help me get used to this life, but during the day I wait for the bright moon crest so I can be alone and get this weight off of my chest. You see, I find myself